Hey guys, this is Dr. Dave Nelson. I'm your professor for US 1 online for fall 2025. I'm saying all that so that you know this is a brand new video, not when I've repeated, because I do repeat stuff from previous semesters. Um, I really meant to do one earlier to talk about the your first day or your first week surveys where I ask you questions about yourself. I am going to talk about that at the end because that's least important. But I did want to cover a few quick things, questions I've gotten or anticipate getting as we're getting close to getting done with Unit 1. It's Sunday, so afternoon, September 7th, just to give you a sense of when I'm recording this. And this is the week where a lot of your work for Unit 1 is due, and then towards the end will be your Unit 1 exam. Anyway, so let's see, just well, first off, real fast, I've got with all my classes, I'm doing three online, including two US ones. Um, people miss the discussion. I just put up grades today for one of the discussions. I'm sure I'm going to get emails because I think in this class we had about five that didn't do it. Either they just didn't know to do it, or they didn't do it, or they, you know. So super fast. There technically is no late work, just so you know, unless there's something on my end. If we have a hurricane day, well, that's not on my end, but or I screwed up. Sometimes I put the wrong link in or something like that, and it really does screw you up. Or you email me a legitimate question and I waited too long to get back with you. 'Cause I am not always the quickest emailer, but generally I give you plenty of time. And if I do screw up, I'm pretty good about fixing it. So, but under just normal circumstances, if you just forgot, I get it. But at the same time, there is no late work, so you just have to move on to the next thing. And part of that is because I mean I'm pretty strict on late work anyway. I just think it's a good skill to know how to follow instructions and follow, because believe me, when you get that job, they're not going to be, my bosses aren't nice when I miss deadlines. Um, but I'm going to be honest, online, if we're really honest, it's kind of easier. You can work at your own pace. You don't have to get up 8 o'clock in the morning to go to class. Although I know a lot of you are also taking face-to-face classes too. I do know that. It's like I'm teaching face-to-face. Um, you get the internet at your fingertips. I mean, so the hard part is making yourself do it. Just like I got to remind myself, I got to come on and make these videos sometimes. Um, but the one thing that we're all pretty strict on with online is hitting those deadlines. So you really do need to hit those deadlines. So again, I'm not mad or anything. You don't need to email me. Just know, oh, I missed it. Shoot, and just move on to the next one. That's one or two things. It shouldn't affect your grade too bad. I have noticed students do freak out when they see a zero, even if it's for like 1 point. Students get angry at a zero than they do failing tests. It's really funny to me how the power of the zero. But anyway, I just want to make sure you guys kind of knew that it's on the syllabus. I think it's on the first announcement. Another one I get a lot of comments about or questions about, and it's funny. It's probably the thing that's worse, the least points of all the stuff you're doing in this class, but it's the one I without a doubt get. Say 60% of my emails are about this, and that's note taking. Everybody always freaks out, like, how do I do this? Sometimes I think people don't want to do it, but other times I think people are legitimately not sure what I'm talking about. So, um, actually, I'm going to share the screen in just a second. Um, really, I try to duplicate online what I do in the classroom, right? And which is why I subject you to these recorded lectures of mine that you can access on. Oh, actually, while I'm talking about that, but this I think in this class I did come up with one student, but it does come up occasionally where people have problems finding. I should say it like that. I mean, have problems playing the video. The videos every so often they'll get taken down, but that hasn't happened in a long time. So I put them on YouTube on purpose so that you could even access them outside of Georgia View. A lot of you are dual enrollment, so you're doing this on your high school computer, and they usually have. My son's high school, they couldn't even look at YouTube online. I mean, they weren't allowed to. But sometimes they have filters, obviously to keep like bad stuff out because history deals with slavery and racism and the Holocaust and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes filters will block them, even though they're not gold. They'll get blocked because of the subject matter. Well, especially if you're going to like a private school, like a religious school, so often they have really strong filters, and so you might just want to make sure like it's not just the filter. Sometimes your parents have filters. I've had students discover their parents have filters. They didn't know their parents had them at their home. So try it on your phone before you email me. Like just literally, you can right click on the video, copy the URL, try it like on your phone or an iPad or a different device, 99% of the time, that's going to be the problem. It's just for whatever reason, the computer you're working on is blocking the video for some reason. Um, so anyway, just like in class, you would sit in class with your notepad and a pen, and you would literally just take notes as you're watching the PowerPoint. And in class, I always give students a little review sheet. Basically, it's a list of names and events. And I'm essentially going, this is the stuff from the lecture you need to know about, right? So as you're taking notes, you go, oh, he mentioned that guy that's on the sheet. I need to make sure I write that down. Well, this is no different. I mean, to be honest with you, I expected you to sit there with your pad and watch the videos and take notes, just as though you were sitting in class. The only difference is because it's online, I am having you turn in those notes. So you can type it right into the review sheet. I don't really care. You can create a Word document, open it up. I do believe that writing stuff down helps you learn stuff. It's old school, it's hundreds of years old, but it still works. The example I always use, this happened to me just yesterday. So you go to the store and you're going to buy 5 things. And if you don't write it down, you get in the store, you might remember one of them. Like, oh, you're texting your wife or your husband, hey, what was I supposed to buy? But if you write it down, sometimes you don't even need to look at it. I've gone to grocery shopping with 40 things, and I don't even look at the list because I remember everything because I wrote it down. There's a real value to that. I also believe then typing it out makes you remember it even more. And you're kind of creating your own cheat sheet, right? I mean, that's really what you're doing. You're creating your own study guide for the exam. So I used to do online and I had the lectures, and students were clearly not watching the videos. They were trying to Google the answers during the exam, which is cheating, and they were getting it wrong. And the test scores were horrible. Once I started making students actually turn in their notes, in other words, I'm giving you points for something you should be doing anyway. It's really like an extra credit. Like you should already be doing this. I'm just giving you points for it. The test scores went up. Not everybody, because not everybody does it, or they don't really take notes. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I know you guys are Googling some of this stuff and copying and pasting it into your notes, but then you pay the price when you take the exam because then you don't actually know the correct answer. So it's right the first time. Anyway, that's all that is. Same with the readings. You're doing exactly the same thing. Um, you're writing it down as you read it, and then but that's all you're doing. And again, if you have 2 screens, I actually have 2 screens and my laptop and then a monitor. I would literally, if I was doing it, I would play the YouTube video on one monitor and I would literally just type it up into a Word document on the other. That's up to you. Okay. Um, Discussions. I think I just graded y'all's first discussion. I'm about to grade a second one tomorrow or this week. Just keep in mind, I know everybody hates discussions. I don't like them either. They're fake. I know, but they are supposed to be a discussion. So make sure that you put your initial post up, and then you need to comment on 2 other people's posts. Now I send the instructions. Most of you did that, I noticed. Actually, you guys were not too bad about this. Still, you're commenting on 2 other people's posts. And anytime anybody responds to your post, you're responding back. And ideally, if everybody does that, you actually get some real discussions going on, at least real fake discussions. But don't put great post. I really agree with you. In fact, try to find one you disagree with, or something that maybe you think the person didn't, uh, put everything they should. I don't want you to be ugly. I want you to be very polite, but at the same time, it's okay to disagree. Anyway. And that's what I'm checking. I go through. I'm trying to show names. Now that you can see it, I know this is the world's worst camera on this computer. I need to get a new camera. It looks like the early 2000s. Anyway, I go through and I put a little check mark for your initial post, and it's a check plus or check minus. Did you put enough stuff in there? And then I go through and I put a little check every time you respond to somebody else. But I also put a little 0 if somebody responds to you and you don't respond back. This time I think everybody got within, full points or just 1 or 2 points off. But as we go along, I will take a few more points off if you're not responding back or you're not putting stuff on other people's posts. So again, I know it's fake. Nobody wants to do this, but it really is supposed to be a discussion. It's supposed to duplicate that in class discussions that obviously you're not having because you're not in a physical class. The best way to do it is to post early and then come back a day or 2 later and then respond to others. Because if you're that first one uploading, you have nobody to respond to yet, right? So you do want to make sure that you come back. Anyway, that's all that is. I know most of you did just fine. It was not a problem. Just make sure that's what you're doing. Um, Actually, I think that's it. And what I thought I'd do for the rest of this is I'll try to do this super fast. Uh, Talk about your first day responses. I keep saying that. In my face-to-face class, it's first day. For you guys, it was your first week. So, and I'm such a nerd. I actually went through and wrote down your answers. I won't go through all of them, but I asked you your major and what do you want to do after college and all that. So, and I didn't even type this up like I usually do. So I just did this because I was late doing this. Number one answer here for your major, we had a lot of majors, but number one was animal science. This is one of the first times that nursing, which was number two, I did not come up number one. And in fact, most of you want to be veterinarians. I think we have seven people in just this class. Out of 40 students, we have seven of you want to be a veterinarian, which means, and that's been all my classes lately. That's becoming a hot job. Great. I have pets. I know you guys are more livestock, but still. But it means a lot of competition. So study hard. We had a lot of biologists. We got some business, physical therapists, a lot of undecided. It's totally fine with me. Ag business, uh, a lot of general studies. Ones that maybe just had one person. Let's see, ag education, which is a new degree we're doing down at Bainbridge, which is where I'm based. I forgot to tell you that I live in Quincy. I'm in Quincy, Florida right now. I work at the Bainbridge campus. In the fall, I am on the Tifton campus 1 day a week. I do teach one course up there. And I'm mostly a Bainbridge faculty. I know a lot of you are not from the Bainbridge area. So we got a psychology major, a criminal justice major. I think I missed one or two, but sorry. We got people, as far as what you want to do after college, we got people, want to be so you got somebody who wants to be a neuropsychologist. Again, veterinarian was the number one. A lot of ag-based stuff. Obviously, we're an agricultural college. Somebody wants to be a lineman. Somebody wants to go into the GBI, specifically cattle farming. Somebody wants to go into government, Georgia Department of Agriculture. What else we got here? Somebody wants to be a pro basketball player. Practice. Financial analyst, physical therapist, ag trader, ag business, work for a corporation, medical school, a lot of nursing. Well, somebody wants to be a lawyer. Hey, for that one who wants to be a lawyer, and I'm not just saying this, history and government needs to be your major. I know you may not care about the historian part, although the skills of historian are good for lawyers. But a lot of our graduates go to law school and they get flunking. I'm very serious about this. History and government is the degree you want from ABAC if you're going to be a lawyer. And also the one who wants to go to Georgia Agriculture Department. Government, history, government. Anyway, I'm just saying it because we had no. I do mean that, but we do not have any history majors here. Let's see, what farming again, cosmetology, dental assistants, and some. Oh yeah, that's totally great. You guys are young. You got plenty of time. As far as you guys think it's what do you think the three most important events in U.S. history are? I didn't go through every little thing you guys wrote because I was trying to do this quickly. But the number one answer, way beyond anybody else, over half of you said something to do with the American Revolution. Again, almost half of you said something to do with the Civil War. And number three in this class was actually the Civil Rights Movement. And then number four was World War II. And the reason I say it like that is because if you ask most historians, they would say American Revolution, Civil War, World War II are usually the top three. For me, I actually think the number one is when Europeans and Africans came to the New World for the first time, what we call contact. And that led to colonization. I think that's the number one. And then I would put Civil War and then World War II. That's just me. But you guys have some great answers. So we got women's rights movement. Mostly just had one, but women's rights movement, the Holocaust, JFK's assassination, the Constitution. I think that person specifically was talking about the Second Amendment, emancipation, Cold War, the discovery of gold, Louisiana Purchase, the Korean War, which doesn't come up much. So that was interesting. Depression, Treaty of Paris, although they didn't say which one. There's a whole bunch of them. The baby boom. And then he did also put 9/11. And that one comes up a lot. In our life, well, actually, not even your lifetime, because most of you weren't born yet. But in my lifetime, that probably is the most important event. And the 250 years, actually, it's 249 years of the US right now, 250 next year. I would not put that in the top three. We'll see. The example I always use to talk about that is if I was to say to you, remember the Maine, most of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Even if you took US history, you don't, you know. That was in 1898. That was an act of, we thought it was an act of terrorism. We now think it was just an accident, but it was where a ship called the USS Maine blew up in Cuba. It was a US Navy ship, killed a bunch of people. We went to war over that with Spain, and we got Cuba, Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico out of that. Nobody remembers the Maine. If this was 1925, everybody would still remember the Maine. But 2025, nobody does. So that's always the thing. What stuff from the past will we actually remember? Pearl Harbor, most people remember. World War II. 9/11, we'll see. In 50 years, we still. But anyway, it's a great answer. It's just trying to put it into a broader perspective. And I would say the same thing about presidents. Usually, it's not you guys, but usually no one answer for best, worst, and favorite or the last couple of presidents. And actually, that is the case for the worst. Um, and I always say, man, sometimes I'm not sure. Sometimes we may hate a guy. 30 years later, you're like, you know what? He really wasn't that bad. He actually made some good decisions, or vice versa. So for best, number one, it was Abraham Lincoln. Totally would agree with you, by the way. Most of us historians would say Franklin Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington. We might throw in Teddy Roosevelt. We might throw in actually Thomas Jefferson, who no one mentions anymore. That's one of the most interesting things to me. When I was growing up, and I know I'm getting old, Jefferson was always in the top three for us. I love Jefferson. Nobody mentions Jefferson anymore, good or bad. Some of that I think is because of slavery, and we do, but George Washington still gets mentioned. But he is a complicated figure. And the more we've learned about him, the more complicated he's gotten. I still think he's important, but I don't like him the way I used to like him. One my dad would have said, and my grandparents would have said, would have been Andrew Jackson. But again, no one mentions Jackson. If they do, it's usually negative. Anyway, you guys are Abraham Lincoln. And then it was a little bit of just, three said Trump, three said Reagan, three said Obama, two said Teddy Roosevelt, two said JFK, one said Clinton, one said Hoover. For worst, it was a tie. This is very typical. We're real weird in America. We love you until you become president, then we hate you. And then when you're done being president, we kind of like you again. But the other thing is, ever since I started teaching 20 years ago, students always either love the current president and hate the last president, or vice versa. So, number one answer for worst president, it was a tie between Trump and Biden. I mean, it was exactly the same number of people said both. Um, a few other, Buchanan came out pretty high. Herbert Hoover came up a couple of times. I don't think he was the best. I definitely don't think he was the worst. I think he's the wrong guy at the wrong time. Jimmy Carter came up as worse. LBJ, Clinton, Harrison, Harding, Andrew Johnson. Who's your favorite? Regardless of whether you're good or bad. Uh, it was actually a tie between Trump and Obama. So again, Biden did not come up as favorite. Nobody said favorite, but Obama and Trump both came up exactly even. Again, reflects our politics. We're pretty evenly divided right now between left and right, and I see that in these answers. Abraham Lincoln came up, Teddy Roosevelt, Jimmy Carter came up for favorite, Grant, Ronald Reagan, George Washington. I think he was number three. George W. Bush, JFK, and Clinton. Let's see. I love movies. I won't go through all the movies you guys have seen. What's interesting is almost nobody said the same movie. Almost everybody had a different movie, but lots of MCU movies. You got Sinners in there, Florida Project. I'm just randomly going through these. Saving Private Ryan, Creed, Titanic. A couple. Actually, that one did come up more than once. Two said Titanic. Forrest Gump, Man in the Moon. Let's see what else we got here. Home Alone, Lord of the Rings, Twilight, Batman, American Sniper, Dune, Insidious. Where you guys are from? Actually, it wasn't any one place that overwhelmed. I think Tifton and Sylvester. Only four from Tifton. Although I know a few of you might be in Tifton, but you don't identify as being from there. And then three of you from Sylvester. Pretty much everything else was just one or two. We got Donaldsonville, Windsor, Georgia, Nashville, Georgia, Valdosta. We got Atlanta, Ashburn, Fayetteville, Bainbridge, Glenville, Thomasville, Bradenton, Florida, Blakely, Cairo. I never know how to say this, and I'm scared I'm going to say it in a bad way. So y'all can email me and tell me how to say it. TYTY. Like I could get you in trouble if you say that wrong. Is it tie tie? Anyway, I see it on the signs. I never have asked how you say it. Osceola, Monroe, Georgia, Fitzgerald, Albany, Miller County. I think I got everybody. Douglas. And if I didn't say it, sorry. Oh, and the one from Douglas is originally from Ohio. So and then I do teach a horror film class every fall in Bainbridge. My colleague Russell Pryor does a similar course up in Tifton. He doesn't do it quite as often as I do. He does it usually in the spring, and he does it about every other year. So if you're interested and you're in Tifton, keep a lookout for it. It's called Topics in Humanities Horror Films. But I do it in Bainbridge every year. So if you're in Bainbridge, take it. It's just one credit. So or if you like horror films or not. Sometimes it's the other way, but Like over 25 of you say you like horror films. Only 6 of you said you didn't. I didn't go through, again, I'm just doing this quickly. Conjuring, without a doubt, was people's favorite horror film or scariest or their first. I mean, that seems to be the movie. And I just kind of collapsed them all into one answer, whether it's your first or favorite, but Scream, the Chucky movies, Insidious, Sinister, Caroline came up a lot, the stop animation one, which did scare my son when we saw it. Exorcist, that was the one that got me when I was a kid. It, Jeepers, Creepers, My Grudge, The Nun, Nightmare on Elm Street. Those are just some of the ones. All right, I know you guys have probably already clicked out of this, but I did want to show I really do read your answers. It might take me forever, but I do read them. Other than that, I'll look forward to seeing you guys online this week, and hopefully you get done with all your work and everything is going just fine. Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.